Hey crazy friends, it's Jake with Find You Crazy. We're a family of 9 who live full-time in our RV with 5 of our kids as we travel the country to see every national park. Today we're doing another maintenance video. Today we're going to talk about how to clean your AC filter. So obviously we all love RVing. We love being able to be in the outdoors and near the outdoors without having to be completely outdoors, right? We all love coming back to that cool RV, that dry RV in the summer, if it's raining, if it's hot, and getting away from the elements when we want to. And when we come back, we definitely want to have that AC unit working. We want to be able to come in and be cool. And let's be honest, an RV is really nothing more than a big tin box. And so keeping it cool sometimes can be a little difficult. But one of the things that you can do to help with that is make sure that you keep your AC filter clean. So let's talk first a little bit about ACs and how they work and why it's important to keep your filter clean. So your AC unit is basically a way of moving heat from one place to another. So there's really, if you think back to your high school physics class, there's no such thing as cold. It's all just some level of heat, a high level of heat or a low level of heat. And so cold is just the absence of that heat. Heat's that energy that's in the air. And so an air conditioner takes a lot of energy from one place, takes it out, and dumps it out in another. And you can almost think about it like a car wash. You drive your car into the front of the car wash. It's covered in dirt. While you're in the car wash, the water takes that dirt and takes it someplace else, and your car goes out the other side clean. So your air conditioner RV works pretty much the same way. You have in your ceiling, you have your returns here, your vents. And so this is where the air is getting sucked into the AC unit. It goes in and it goes over a set of coils. And those coils kind of act as the water, if you will, in the car wash example. And so as it goes over those coils, that hot air, the heat is sucked out of those coils. Then the coils loop to the outside of your camper where they dissipate that heat outside, and then your condenser takes that hot liquid or hot gas actually at that point inside your air and turns it back into cold, brings it back across the fins again, and so the new air that's coming across is going across cold fins again, and it just keeps going over and over again. And then your returns, which are the round things here, that's where the cold air comes out. Now, these units aren't, they're not amazing, meaning they say that when an AC unit is working at its best in an RV, you can expect between 15 and 22 degrees difference in the air. So that means if it's 90 degrees or if it's 100 degrees outside, you're not going to get to 65 in your air conditioner. You're inside your camper. Your air conditioner just can't do that. It can't remove that much heat. How much heat it can remove is measured in BTUs. So BTUs is a level of energy, a unit to level the heat, to measure the heat energy in the air. The higher your unit, that is the more of those BTUs per hour that it can pull out, the more heat that it can pull out. And so if you've got a bigger rig, like we do a fifth wheel, we've got 2 units. One is a 13.5 and one is a 15,000 BTUs that it's pulling out. And so, as long as we keep our air conditioners in good operating condition with clean filters, and we try not to park in the direct sun, most of the year we can keep our rig, even with 7 people inside of it, pretty cool. But to do that, you have to keep your filters clean. So your filters are located right here inside of this. There's basically 2 different kind of covers. If you've got one of the smaller units that has the controls up top, there's probably a flip down compartment right there, a little door that you can access your filter. If you've got the larger ones like we have in our fifth wheel, it's going to be screwed on, and under that is a filter. That filter catches the dirt and particles, dust in the air, and keeps it from getting stuck on those fins inside the air conditioner where it's a lot harder to clean. But the more dirt that gets stuck there, the less air can flow over those coils, and therefore the less heat it can take out, therefore the hotter your camper gets. And so keeping those clean is really important. The good news is it's really simple to keep them clean. It's really easy to tell when your filters need cleaning. You just have to look at them. They get really dusty, and when it looks like they're covered in dust, or specifically on like my unit where there's no backing behind the filter, you can see here, it's kind of hard to see in the video, but you can see where it's actually curving, arching up in it because it's so dirty. Now, normally, I keep mine pretty clean. I clean mine at least once a month. Sometimes if we're in dustier areas, it's more often than that. This time I intentionally let it go longer than normal so that it would be in a pretty bad state, so that it would be in a more extreme place and easier for you to see. So we're going to go ahead and take that out. If you have just the little flip down door type unit on the smaller one, then all you have to do is unclick it and pull that filter out. If you got the larger one like me, then you just need a drill to take those screws out. The first thing you want to do though is turn off your unit. You're not really getting into any of the places where the fans or anything is running, so you're not really in any danger, but it's really annoying because if it does come on, it's sucking air and it makes it really hard to get that filter in and out. So just turn it off and then you're ready to take the cover off. So you're just going to take these 4 screws out around the corner. If you've done any kind of maintenance on your RV, you know that most of our screws are those little square headed screws, and so you're going to need a square bit, and then you're just going to take the 4 screws out. Obviously, it's easier to take 2 corners out first and then take the last 2 out. And then this cover just comes down, and there's your filter behind it. So you can see, like I said, how mine is domed up because there's so much dust up underneath it. And then you just pull it off. Mine has a couple of little Velcro places that keep it attached when you put it up there. These filters you can buy online. They come in bigger sheets and you can just cut it down to the size that you need. I'll put a link down in the description box. But again, now that we've got it out, you can really see how the dust is caked up on there. And so you can imagine with this much covered, how much that's reducing the airflow to your air conditioner. So then all you're going to do is just take this thing and wash it under some running water on your sink. once mine is washed off, I like to lay it on a couple of paper towels to dry while I clean off the grate and just pat it dry. It doesn't necessarily have to be 100% bone dry before it goes back up in there, because the air going over it's obviously going to do some of that, but it helps to keep the moisture out, and it also makes it easier to see the dust. I found out that when the dust is wet, it clumps up and sometimes it's hard to see, but then when you dry it, it shows back up and you can pick off the little clumps that are there. Once everything's cleaned off, you're ready to put your filter back on, and just click it down on those little grabby parts, those little Velcro pieces, and then I cut the little corners off of mine so that the screws would not have to go through the filter, and then you're ready to put it back up there. Before you put it back on, you want to check up inside of here to look at your fins inside of there that are around the coils, which is what moves the heat in and out. If dust gets past your filter, it can get caked on those, and it's a lot harder to get off of there. So let's take a look. Again, it's a little difficult to see up in there. I'll use a light to shine up in there and show you. So those fins are what the warm air goes across and gets cooled down. Inside of all those fins are some coils that have your coolant in there, which takes all the heat from the air going across those fins and takes it from the inside to the outside. So you can see mine have a little bit of dust on them. That is normal, but you don't want to see any place where it's so caked on that you can't see the individual fins. So unless you've got really caked on dirt, then it's pretty easy to get it off. And I suggest two things. The thing that I start with is our vacuum cleaner. We've got one of these stick vacuum cleaners that hangs on the wall, and it came with a great little brush attachment. And so I just put it on, stick it up in there, and brush it up and down the coils. Those coils are made out of really thin metal, and so you want to make sure that you don't bend them back and forth. And so that's why a brush like this is nice. As it brushes off, it just sucks it right out. If there's a place that's a little more stubborn, you can get one of these little brushes from the dollar store and rake it up and down it. Again, just be gentle. Don't put a whole lot of pressure on it. They make what's called a fin comb that is a little metal thing with lots of little fingers on it. But I'll be honest with you, I have tried several and none of them have ever worked. They do more damage to the fins than they do helping. And so I'll put a link to one in the video so that you can see what not to get. But again, I suggest right here is your best form of attack. If they are really caked on, you're in really bad shape, then you may need a deep cleaning, and I'm going to do another video about how to do that, because really get to it, you really need to get on your roof, take your cover off. There's a cleaner that you can get, but we'll go into all of that in the next video, so just stay tuned for that, or use the link right up there once that's live. So let's just vacuum them off real quick, and then we'll put everything back together. So there is one thing to look out for when you're cleaning your inside vents. You see this wire that goes to the coils. It's not actually attached to the coils. There's a little sensor, a little metal sensor on the end of it that's just stuck into the coils. That tells your coils if they're freezing. And so if you happen to knock that, just be careful around it. If you happen to knock it out, just stick it back in between the fins where it was at. So before we put our cover back on, let's talk a little bit more about that icing up. And so one of the common things that can happen if you don't have enough airflow in across your fins is they can actually freeze. They'll turn into a solid block of ice. They're getting really cold, and yet there's not enough air flowing over, enough heat flowing over it to transfer that cold out, that heat out, and so they can just freeze, and they'll literally start at the top and form just a sheet of ice down it. So if you notice that your air conditioner is running, but it doesn't seem to be putting out any cold air, that's the first thing to check. Take your cover off and look up there and see if it's iced over. If it is, then number one, you need to check your filters and do a really, really good cleaning on them. If that doesn't fix it, then you may need to do that deep cleaning that we're going to talk about in the next video. You also may need to check that sensor. You can move that sensor up and down the coils. Typically, those coils start freezing from the top down, and that sensor tells them that they're freezing up, and what it basically does is it turns the air conditioner part of your unit off and lets just the air run over it, and so those fins are no longer cooling, and so the ice will melt off. So if you do see that ice up there, you can do that yourself. Just go to your unit, turn the AC part off, but leave the fan, instead of on auto, leave it on, and it'll run and it'll melt all that off, and then you can turn everything back on. But that's what to look for, and again, a dirty filter may be part of your problem there. Last thing we have to do is just put the cover back on and just screw it back in. That's super simple. I will say, make sure that you get your screws back in the same holes. I tend to put one in where I can see it and screw it in by hand just a little bit, and then go around and put them just in enough so that they hold, so that the cover's still hanging down so I can see behind it to line them up. It's important to get back in those same screw holes, because if you just drill a new screw hole every time you take it on and off, you're eventually going to turn that little piece of wood into Swiss cheese, and it's not going to hold anything anymore. So make sure you line those holes back up, screw it back up, and you are good to go. You have accomplished a great deal of maintenance and given your AC unit a lot more life and a lot more effectiveness. So if you're seeing that your unit is not working properly, or maybe it's freezing up or just not blowing out the air like you think it should, this is the first and easiest place to check. And you should be checking this about once a month, depending on where you're at, to make sure everything is good to go. Few minutes work, and you have accomplished a great deal. Now, again, if you get up there and this doesn't work, your unit's still freezing up, or is still really dirty up on those fins, then you're going to need to do a deeper cleaning, which is going to happen up on your roof with a couple of other things, and we'll talk about that in our next video. So until then, if you like this video, if it was helpful, we would love for you to like, subscribe to our channel. Down in the comment box, you can leave any comments, suggestions, or snide remarks. Or as always, you can put something that I may have forgotten. Help those other people out that are watching this video. So until next time, go out and have some crazy fun with your crazy family. See you guys.